And we are live on episode 52 of the PHU Dynasty podcast. This is your host of the Texas Armadillos, Eric, and then my esteemed colleague, I almost said Los Angeles Lambs. I almost said it, but I didn't. The Lake Lure Long Gamers. They are here as well.
I thought you were just going to call me a loser this week, but that's fine.
I mean, I got to tell you, it was a rough week for you out there.
I hit the trifecta in our leagues this week. I went 0-3.
Yeah, I
Brutal.
my redraft performance has been. I've lost 6 straight. This is the worst. It's the worst thing ever. Started 3-0 and lost 6 straight. It's tough out here. Yeah, my team was basically floated by the Dolphins' success for too long. Anywho, let's talk about week 9 to start off the podcast. The games aren't complete yet, but I mean, every single one of these has a 99% win chance, so it's pretty much over for dynasty purposes. But there's definitely a few people to watch. I saw Eckler scored a couple of minutes ago. I think it was a defensive touchdown was the first one they got, but
It was a punt return.
oh, even better. But yeah, there's not a whole lot left to be decided. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these. So the Armadillos roll to a win against the Long Gamers. The ones, see, I'm trying to make you feel a little better. Yeah, the 117 to 88. I still have somebody playing right now. I don't even remember who it was. Oh, it's Quentin Johnston. We'll get to a lot to him later. We'll get to him later.
Stinks.
He is bad. So we'll get to him. I saw it coming, and I still picked him, Sean. I believed in the athletic traits. Anyway, let's save that talk.
All right.
So my team, pretty ho-hum performance, but it looks like it's going to end up being 121. Got a couple of crazy, like you were talking about yesterday, or with the vulturing going on with Gus Edwards.
Gus Bus got me.
He's got he always has the weirdest stat lines. It's always like 23 carries for 72 yards or like 5 carries for 6 touchdowns. It's always some just ridiculous thing with Gus. But I always appreciate his services because he's just, exactly what you're going to get out of him. It's going to probably end up being some wonky stat line, but you'll get 6. You'll get 6 and you can walk out of there. It's not too bad. And then for your squad, Kamara with a pretty midday overall. And then Mostert, he kind of didn't really get as involved much as I thought.
Yeah, he got some late, like, it won't say garbage time because they were still coming back, but it was like all on like one drive. He did most of his damage, and then the Chiefs defense might be, it's hard to say underrated at this point because I feel like they're getting talked about, but that defense is really good.
They've been very good this whole year, and I really think it's just the offense. And when you talk about Kansas City, you're not talking about the defense usually. But they've been good for me.
I think they might have the best secondary in the NFL.
They're very underrated in the secondary for sure. I mean, you have guys back there that maybe just they're not the talk of the town. They're not the AJ Terrells or the Sauce Gardners, but they're a good unit. That's just what's most important, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bucks could tell you, as a Bucks fan, I can tell you we have no unit back there. So it's
apparently
it's not like you can't have a good cohesive. We used to have a good cohesive unit.
Dustin could tell you that there's nothing back there after his performance this week.
That's very true. That's extremely true. God, it was bad. So anywho, some other headline players, I guess, from this matchup. George Pickens he's 2 for 5 for -1 yard, which is one of the best stat lines I've heard in a while. 2 catches for -1 yard on 5 targets.
I was feeling really good about this matchup after the Thursday night game. I was like, all right, here we go. And then
I saw that and I was like, man, I don't know about this anymore because I need Pickens to basically have 7 for me to win most weeks. Like I need it.
I think at like 120 or 125, you already had like 4 touchdowns on the board from like 4 different people. And I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be this week.
And then Hurts hadn't even played yet. And then he kind of started slow too and really picked it up in the second half. So it was just a weird week.
Yeah, it's tough. I actually really needed this week because I have all of my Philly and Miami players on a bye next week.
Yeah, so the bye weeks are hitting me hard next week for sure. In redraft, and then I think even in this league, I'm losing a couple like Rashee Rice and a few other quality players, at least for my team.
I'm losing Mostert, AJ Brown, and Tyreek Hill next week.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not great at all.
Scavelli's getting a W next week against me.
Yeah, so let's go to Scavelli then. So the next one would be I think he ended up playing
He's
the.
gonna lose to James this week, but pretty big.
That's right. So yeah, it looks like it's going to end up being bigger. At the time I made this, I think it was 124.
Yeah.
But now with Eckler scoring and getting, and of course Herbert too is still going. But yeah, the Lambs, I think that was the marquee matchup of the week for sure. It was a decent game up until late last night, but the Lambs, their running backs when they get hot like this, it's gonna be really hard for anybody really to beat them, and I think we're gonna talk about them a little bit more as we get
It's
onto the.
impressive week this week because he's got McCaffrey on a bye and he's still projected for 160 points. So
Yeah, I
impressive
mean,
stuff.
Tank Dell for 24 points is insane.
Great.
Amari Cooper got 20. CeeDee Lamb had 18. So like the receivers really showing up, and this is what we're talking about in the PHU Dynasty League in particular with these flex guys. You got to start these guys, and you got to have this depth in order to win a championship. And a guy like Tank Dell, right into the lineup and being a serious contributor for this team. These are the kind of players that they don't get a lot of love, but they're the core of these teams sometimes. So, I think if your flexes aren't as strong as somebody else's flexes on any given week, that really could change the week.
No doubt. No doubt. I wish I had them.
Yeah, the flexes are fun for me every week because it's always just like this hodgepodge of garbage. It's like, which garbage can I start this week? Sometimes it's Quentin Johnston, sometimes it's Keontae Ingram, sometimes it's just whoever feels the best that day, and it's never right. So anywho, so the Battle Axes dropped to 6-3. It's going to knock them out of first place, I believe, and I think it puts James in first place.
Yeah,
And I think with your loss as well.
Yeah, it'll be James Scavelli and then the Armadillos. 1, 2, 3.
And I still can't believe it every day. It's ridiculous.
Well,
All right, let's talk about.
Actually, you might pass him if you have him in points. It'll be close, but
It's going to be pretty close because I think I might have got him by a little tiny bit because I think he wasn't that much more ahead. But anywho, either way, let's talk about the Elk with the huge upset against the Plague this week, which is the tank is not really tanking right now. It's like a mid tank right now. But a huge week for the Elk, getting 122 points. But this is all on the backs of a 53.8 performance by C.J. Stroud on the Bucks. What an unbelievable week! And I didn't even watch this game. I looked at it on my phone in the middle of a golf round. I was like, "What is happening in this game? It's a disaster."
It was just dime after dime after.
There were good throws too. They weren't even just like these broken coverages. Like they were broken coverage, but they weren't obvious broken coverage. Like you actually had to make good throws, and he did. It was amazing.
I thought he was gonna be like year one the best quarterback of the class, but I didn't think he had the highest ceiling. But Jesus, like I
mean,
what
do you think his ceiling is? Because he doesn't have. I mean, he has the legs. He just doesn't use them that much. I heard somebody say this on either a podcast or on TV or something, but like maybe like Justin Herbert could be his ceiling.
I don't see why he can't be in the conversation with that second tier under Mahomes. I would put Mahomes tier 1, and then there's like a group of guys at tier 2.
Yeah.
I don't see.
I mean, I'm not saying he's there now, but like he's certainly trending that way. I mean.
But I mean, coming into the league and having like down like 4 of your starting offensive linemen and throwing for 300 yards was a really good way to start. And then this is just crazy.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about C.J. Stroud now because I was going to compare him to some other quarterbacks from this draft class, specifically Bryce Young, but we can get to that later because he's part of the discussion for later. But yeah, what an unbelievable week for Stroud, and he's really come on strong for a team that frankly kind of needs him with Trevor Lawrence right now, not really playing that well. C.J. Stroud can actually start games now and maybe get the squad a couple more wins before the season's over. So let's move on to the next one. So the Bombers bomb to a 110-76 loss to the Cheese Fries. A pretty big win for the Cheese Fries at 4-4 currently. He's in 6th position as of right now, but getting to that 5-4 number is a pretty good thing for a hopeful team like the Cheese Fries trying to get into the playoffs after starting their rebuild a few years ago. And of course the Bombers at this point they'll be much discussed in the later portions of this show, but not a loss you want to take against a team that is kind of in your tier, if you will. You want to beat up on those teams and try to move yourself up the rankings. So unfortunately, the Bombers take the L there. And man, just the Bombers just can't get anything going. They really can't. It's tough.
Stuff out here. So
With it,
it's
you
just
look at the lineup on
tired
paper,
seeing
it's like this
green.
team should not be this bad, and they always are. It's like I don't
Just
get it.
running into problems every week, something or other. It's always
He
something.
runs into the fucking worst teams every week. It's the Bombers really take it. It's bad. All
The
right,
team
and then
slogan should really be like it's always something. Like
it's always sunny in Baton Rouge.
I want to take this moment just to recognize that Brett Rippon was a starting quarterback on a winning fantasy football team this week, and that's
That
great.
is something to be said. That's impressive. And the last game I believe we haven't discussed was the Lionheads, with a little bit of a disappearing act this week against the Muskrats in a big rivalry matchup. The Muskrats didn't have their biggest week. It looks like they're on track to score 113, a pretty mid game from Mahomes. But realistically, I think that this would be one of those Texas Hold'em. Let's run it back. Let's see it again, because there was a lot of just very weird play. And then of course, with the quarterback issues currently for the Vincent Patrignani led Lionheads, it was a little bit harder this week as well. So we getting 11 points from Bryce Young. Starting Bryce Young at all is not a good thing at this point.
It's not what you want. I'm sure he's out there trying to make a move right now. I think he thinks he's got the core of running backs to do something this year. So it's probably about time to start moving.
Receivers. I mean, the receivers aren't that bad right now. I wouldn't say they're burning the earth or anything, but
yeah, I mean, starting MVS as your wide receiver 3 is tough.
It is tough, but he's going to get Debo back next week, so that's a pretty big bump in my opinion.
That was the price he paid for Bijan, so
it really was. It really was, but it's definitely not over at all for the Lionheads, but it's gonna be tough for them to kind of make up ground here. As if you go 3-6 to start the year, you're really having to battle your way back to get back to that playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep this rolling. Let's go to the mid-season survey. Thank you everybody for filling it out quickly. It really made it easy so that we can make this podcast happen before the true midpoint of the season. So we have quite a few questions to get to, so I'm sure we'll have plenty of talking points. So let's start with this first one, and it's a pretty simple one. It's the team with the best chance to win this season, and that was the LA Lambs. They got 6 of the 10 votes, so any of these numbers you see here will be the number of votes that they received. So the Lambs take 6 of the votes, and then the Plague get 2, Battle Axes 1, and Long Gamers 1. So
hey, thank you. I don't know who it was.
I just gonna say I don't know who voted for what really. You can tell for certain ones you can, and other ones you can't. So, it's pretty much anonymous at this point, except for maybe 2 of the categories. So somebody gave you a nice shout out there, so that's pretty nice. My vote was for the Plague. I was one of the 2, and I only think that just because if there's a chance that he can get Jefferson back towards the end of the year, and these tight ends, pick it up a little bit more, he's back in that driver's seat, and it'll be a good matchup either way.
As good as Jefferson is it? Does he feel as dangerous once he comes back?
He definitely doesn't. I'll say that. But he's one of those guys. I think the talent can just ride it out. But it'll be interesting now with Jordan Addison playing so well as his part. How will a shitty quarterback be able to handle 2 legitimate options in passing games? So and then the Battle Axes get their 1 vote there as well. So that's a nice little touch for the Battle Axes there. But I really do believe those are probably the 4 true contenders right now. I feel like the 5 and 6 spot, whether it be myself, the Cheese Fries, Lionheads, Muskrats grouping, I feel like they're maybe just not there this year. There's reasons for every one of those, but this seems like the solid top 4 to me.
Would agree.
All right, let's go to this next one. So this was a very easy one. So the biggest surprise team in the first half, I would have been shocked if anybody didn't vote for me on this one. I thought I was going to be one of the worst teams this year. So to even the thought of being 6-3 is ridiculous. So Thanks for the votes. We're gonna see if we can keep it rolling. Try to make a magical run here to the championship. We'll see. It's gonna be a tough sled though. All right, so the biggest disappointment of the first half is another interesting competition here. So the Lionheads took this honor, if you will, and the Bombers take 3 votes, and the Muskrats picked up an extra vote as well. They're at the bottom. So, what do you think about this ranking here?
I mean, I think that's pretty fair. I would think Vince probably would vote for his own team too, given like where he's at right now. So I think that's where I voted. I honestly don't remember this one very much, but considering the other 2 teams, like Justin will tell you that the Bombers are disappointing every year, as is their
I think
mission.
I don't think I voted for the Bombers on this because I'm just so used to it that it didn't feel like the biggest disappointment to me.
And I don't think we're really surprised at anything that an Alex team can do at this point. So
this is very true.
This feels right.
Somebody threw in that vote just for the shit of it. It might have been that could be the Vince vote right there. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Lionheads. I mean, if we were talking before the season about him and Dan right there at the 1-2 spot, and to be down where he's at, frankly, a lot of injuries to deal with, a lot of bullshit to deal with right before the season started with Jonathan Taylor. You lose Debo for a little while. The Bijan really hasn't gotten the numbers because of his coaching situation. It's just all the things that could have gone wrong have kind of gone wrong at this point. Cooper Kupp missed time. That's another big one. The quarterback injuries have been brutal. He loses Rodgers and Kirk Cousins for the season. That's so hard.
Did you even mention JT?
I thought I did, but maybe not. With his holdout, he missed a bunch of time. I mean, Miles Sanders is bad. I mean, I could have
told you that before the year.
I don't know if I would have thought bad, but maybe not this bad. I mean, he's a joke at this point. He gets 6 carries a game.
I didn't think he was worse than Chuba Hubbard, but apparently
they overpaid. We'll put it that way. They definitely overpaid regardless. That was a miserable. Yeah, it's funny because the one time a running back gets paid on the open market, it's just garbage. It's setting the precedent for more shit running backs to not get their bucks.
How much are they going to overpay a receiver this offseason?
I mean, they got to get something. If Adam Thielen is a stud and he's 33 and has nothing left in the tank because they just target the crap out of him.
My mind goes to the year that Jacksonville paid Zay Jones and Christian Kirk, which in hindsight, they've been good.
Quality. Yeah, they're fine.
But at that time, everybody was losing their mind because they're why are they spending all this money on these guys that are mid?
They seem like the obvious choice to sign a guy like T. Higgins or something.
I think they're gonna make him like a market receiver.
He'll be an 80 million plus receiver, and he'll get it probably from Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it when it happens.
I'm not saying I would pay him the money.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be the best receiver out there probably.
Yeah.
And I just have a hard time paying these guys as much because now I feel like the receiving talent that comes into the draft every year is so strong nowadays that maybe you just don't need to pay these guys. Even they took T. Higgins in the second. He wasn't even a first round pick. You could find another guy pretty easily. And Tyler Boyd isn't total garbage. They don't need to pay him to bring him back.
Quick question, because this keeps popping into my head and this doesn't have anything to do with fantasy, so I'll make it quick. If the Vikings this offseason, they won't have a high enough pick to get one of the top end quarterbacks, how much do you think they would get for Jefferson in the trade?
I really don't know. I mean, that's it's hard to even put it. I don't think it's possible. I just don't feel like a deal is even in the cards. But I think from a team building standpoint, you're not winning anything soon.
They've been able to move on their offense without him in it. That's all. I'm not saying they're better off without him. I'm just saying what you can get.
But you could rebuild your team a lot faster with the shit that you're going to get for him. I mean,
considering how good Addison has been.
It's really a legitimate question. I mean, they have Addison. I mean, Osborne hasn't been total garbage. They have virtually no running game, but they'll draft somebody or figure that out in the near future. But I mean, what is he going to come back to? Is he going to come back to Josh Dobbs and they're not going to have a quarterback, like you said, probably? I mean, there's the draft picks. It's a deep quarterback draft, but it's going to be a rookie and it's not going to be Caleb Williams or Drake May probably.
And even
So
if they bring back Cousins, he's going to miss how much of next year? I don't know. I just have
I
a.
don't think he's coming back at all. I think there's 0% chance. That's just a personal opinion, I guess. But like I have a hard time believing he's gonna come back and not want to go to a team. Like I honestly feel like the Commanders make sense. Like for him to go back to Washington, and like it has some validity in my mind at least. But I
It
mean,
is,
Sam Howell's been pretty solid.
it's obviously like a completely different ownership group, and nobody really there is still the same. But he still didn't leave Washington on great terms.
No, and honestly, who knows if it's even going to be Ron Rivera when he gets back there. I mean, it's possible that's not the case, but I feel like the
No,
ownership group is going to want a clean house.
no below average coach has ever survived an ownership change in any sport ever.
It seems like it's just going to happen. Anywho, let's go to the next one here. The team to watch out for down the stretch. This is a very interesting voting. It was all over the place. I was wondering if people were just voting for themselves, basically. I probably should have made that a thing in all of the questions. Just don't vote for yourself, so it makes it a little bit more interesting to look
I
at.
didn't vote for myself at all.
This
I
didn't happen
assumed that
that
was
much, but
I assume that was the point of it. Like vote for somebody like a GM survey kind of type
yeah,
thing.
like in my head, these are always just like whatever would be the main opinion, like not something that you would just like, oh, let's just throw my hat in the ring. Like you want to vote for the right people.
I
So this is very interesting.
I took this question as like a who could like kind of like shake things up from like whoever's been like on top so far this year, as opposed to like just like which team is going to like dominate everybody else. So like who can like really like if they finish at like a 5 or 6 seed, kind of like get a cheeky win or like knock somebody out of the playoffs or like ruin the standings a little bit.
So it's interesting. It's kind of an open-ended question because I thought about that, and then my kind of idea with the question was like, what team, maybe is underperforming that can just get hot down the stretch and really become a team. So like it kind of is open-ended, but
I'm
the
pretty
play.
sure I voted for the cheese fries for that reason.
Yeah, I think I either voted for the cheese fries or the lion heads because of just like the
Mhm.
overall talent on the team.
Yeah.
Both I think
Good
both of
enough
those
to
teams
win
have
every
a lot
week.
of good players. I think, and then of course with the Lionheads, Muskrats, I mean the Lambs is kind of a weird one because I mean if he's towards the top, so I'm not sure I get that one too much, but
Yeah,
and
I think
same
we
even
all
for the
can see
Battle
him.
Axes.
Yeah. Are you a little offended that you are not represented?
I gotta be honest, like I kind of feel a little bit
I
slighted.
I would be slighted.
I feel a little slighted here because like
You're about to be in second
we've been
place.
the team to watch out for this entire season, so why not down the stretch too? You just think we're gonna fall apart here?
That's why
Maybe,
you
I mean it's
find so
very
many.
possible. We very possibly could fall apart.
That's why you find so many of them on the side of the road. Nobody looks out for them, Eric.
You roadkill the whole year, and then you
Texas
might trip
Stevens
over
out
the
there.
roadkill if you're not looking forward. You might trip. You never know. I don't know. The team, it's my team is so. If I lose specific players, I have zero chance of winning anything. So
Yeah.
it's just like I can't afford any injuries. Like Devon Achane went down, I almost cried. I was like, this is all I have at running back. Please don't take this from me. But he's
Yeah.
coming back week 11, so maybe I am the damn team to watch out for. The Armadillos are the team to watch
You
out
better
for.
hope Jalen Hurts gets healthy on the bye.
I mean, I need him to get a little healthier, but Sam Howell, I'm telling you, Sean, he's not that bad. QB6 for the year.
Do you not remember the hot takes episode? Did you
You
watch it?
love
Right?
Sam Howell.
I love Sam Howell.
You loved him.
I love Sam Howell, and you know who else I loved, Eric? I loved Jonnu Smith.
And I think Vince may have said on a podcast, you did love Johnny Smith. I'll give you that kudos. That was incredible. We thought you were a jackass for saying that.
Can you clip that out and send it to like all of the fantasy football like companies?
I should. Why not? I should.
Just
I think that would get some. You might get like 7 to 8 likes on Twitter for that. That might work.
Just time stamp it out and just send it out there. I would. Oh my gosh, that'd be great.
It would be funny to see what people thought, but I was gonna say I think Vince told me early in the season that C.J. Stroud would be the worst rookie quarterback.
He
You
put
remember that?
He put that in the group chat on Sleeper like right before week 1 started. And honestly, like I didn't think Stroud was going to be.
Oh, he looked like shit in the preseason though, so I totally get it. Like,
I didn't have high hopes for him. I don't think anybody saw him doing what he's doing.
Dude,
now.
he looked miserable in the preseason. I remember there's like the second preseason game. He got sacked like 6 times in 8 plays. So it's like this is just not going to go well. But it is truly amazing what he's been able to do. It's very Justin Herbert like in my opinion, because like he was kind of that guy everybody's like, oh, maybe it'll be a slow start, and he's just like, what the hell? He's just amazing right out of the gate. So interesting for sure. Let's go to the next one. And this is the team that needs to give up hope this season. And unfortunately, unfortunately, it goes to the Bombers. Um, I think it's pretty obvious. I feel like, I mean, with Justin's recent posts, it seems like he might be heading towards a light rebuild, if you will, maybe a retool, if you will, but certainly not a fire sale. But he's been shopping some players around, and I think he knows that this season is probably not in the cards at this point. At 2-7, it's just not going to happen.
I'm curious to know who voted for the elk, because the question was who needs to give up hope, and I don't think you can give up hope when you didn't have hope coming into the season.
The elk, I'll tell you what, the elk are going to be ahead of the Bombers. It's going to be. I didn't see that at all. There was no hope to begin with. How do you kill that which has no life?
Then, I'm assuming Alex and Vince voted for each other. So
you would imagine. It's funny. I mean, I think those are the right answers. I don't know who else you could even put into this conversation. I don't think you really can. I think these are the right folks.
I mean, I'll be 5-5 after next week. Some people could probably put my team down.
I just don't think it's like your receivers are just too good to give up any hope. Like that trio
they're
can win any week.
Next week.
I mean, well, maybe not next week, but the week after. All right. All right. So here's the team you are rooting for, who's not your own team. The Armadillos picked up 5 here, so that maybe there's a little bonus to get back for not being chosen for the other category. I voted for the Bombers, as usual. I always root for them. They never win. Maybe I should stop rooting for them. Maybe that's the problem. And then we also had the Lionheads, the Lambs, and the Long Gamers also picking up some votes in that little trio there. So nothing.
I'm starting to think I've got a secret admirer out there, because I got
somebody out there likes the Long Gamers. Who do you think it is? I think it's Scavelli or something.
I think it's
seems like Dustin. A Scavelli. It could be one or the other.
I'm gonna say Dustin.
Put in the chat who you think the secret admirer is.
He's a good lad. I like that, Dustin.
Oh man! All right, let's go to the next one. So this was an interesting one because I can't believe I got to vote for this. But it depends on how you're looking at it. Like best 2-year outlook. Do you mean like in terms of draft picks? Do you mean in terms of like overall assets? Do you mean best 2-year outlook to win? That's what I thought in my head was like, is who has the best chance to win and look the best over the next 2 years?
I took it as like I literally just fast forward myself in 2 years and I'm looking at everybody's roster. Who do I think is going to have the best looking roster and like asset management?
That's pretty much perfect. Yeah. So I think maybe like for best 2 years, like Alex definitely makes sense. I mean, he definitely has a serious window. The Plague still have great quality players and are still in their window as well. The Lambs is an interesting choice for me. He does have a good 2-year window with the running backs that he has, but there's also a chance that maybe the landscape of those running backs change up a little bit with Joe Mixon and Austin Eckler specifically. I believe both will be free agents after the year. And who knows what their situation might be like. It might not be as good as it is now, that's for sure. So maybe that changes his 2-year to maybe a 1-year outlook for this year. But that's just, I'm kind of nitpicking at that point. Is there anything that surprises you here or you want to discuss?
No, I think it all is pretty straightforward. I'm pretty sure I voted for Adam on this one just because of the draft capital plus the talent he's got on his roster now. So
yeah, I mean, he has a lot of picks still, and he has a lot of good players on his team right now. So I voted for him for the best 5-year outlook, which is right here. I picked up 3 votes, and then the Elk picked up 3, and that makes sense because we all have the most draft picks
there. Yep.
Yeah, so I don't think this is much of a surprise to anybody. So let's go to the best position groups, and we'll start with the quarterbacks. You picked up 2 votes here with, I believe, Izzy, Lamar, and Dak, right? So yeah, so that's pretty damn good. The Bombers were chosen 3 times.
2 Burrow.
Yeah, 2 Burrow. That's pretty good. You got to feel like one of those gets traded soon, right? Just to try to build some assets, or do you keep them both? Like
he should be calling. I don't know. Probably call Vince up.
I feel like Vince is the obvious trade partner here, but especially with I don't know if Vince would want Tua for the double whammy if you lose and the Dolphins lose special. But I feel like one of these, just in terms of, it's hard to have two top 10 quarterbacks on your team just because you feel like, oh man, I could be using that value elsewhere. Do you ever feel like that with your setup?
I have. I mean, but that's why I made the Justin Fields trade too. Like, I feel
Right.
like if one of, and I'm not saying like this is why you should make a trade like I did, but like one of the things that nags you is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start the right guy this week.
Yeah, it's brutal.
So like,
Luckily, like I don't have to deal with that this year, but it's tough
that
when you
doesn't
don't know who to
mean
start.
that doesn't mean you should sell them on like a low or anything, but like that's definitely like it's a little aspect of it. So I can see why that would be an issue or something to think about for him as far as making a trade.
Yeah, and I think if he had a third quarterback that was relevant too, that would make the decision maybe a little easier this year, just to get by as a backup. But I don't think he has a third quarterback. And of course, the draft. I think the draft is loaded next year at quarterback. So, maybe something happens in the offseason.
He's got the elite quarterbacks of Kenny Pickett and Jordan Love on his team also.
Okay, so those aren't bad backups at all. I forgot about those two. So I mean, yeah, that's probably why this is also, it attributes to their quarterback situation. They do have some younger guys that maybe, if you if you believe in the upside of those two players, there is some upside perhaps, but they're both young at least, so that's nice. All right, so let's go to our next one. It's going to be the best running back group. And the winner here was James with 7 votes. The Lionheads picked up a couple of votes as well. And then the Battle Axes rounded out the group. I think those are all perfect. I mean, the Battle Axes with Henry and Barkley. Lionheads, obviously, we talked about them earlier. They're pretty much loaded at running back when everybody's healthy. And he even got a free Kyron Williams this offseason, too, before he got hurt. I mean, he was playing really well. So just like an added bonus to an already deep running back room. And then the Lambs, of course, this is the reason the team is where it is because of these running backs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be closer just because of injury. Like, I think Vince has just taken on a lot more injury than James has this year, and it probably just ended up looking better for James. But it's close. I mean, Bijan, JT, Connor, Montgomery, Kyron Williams is pretty good.
Yeah, and that's with the shit Miles Sanders too. Like the Miles Sanders was supposed to be in that third slot probably, or fourth spot this year. So a pretty damn deep running back room. And Pacheco, we didn't even mention him.
Pacheco, yeah.
So I mean, it's deep for sure. There's plenty of. Luckily, with the injuries and the issues they've had, they've been able to kind of stay afloat with that. So let's go to the best receivers. And Sean, you picked up the win here with 8. The Plague got 1. And Plague is a little tough to rank too because of some of the injuries they've had with Jefferson, of course, too. So it's a little bit tricky. And then the Cheese Fries got a vote here. Maybe best receivers dynasty wise, you could argue, like over the next 5 years, he looks pretty damn solid.
I am just so happy that I was not completely wrong on Dotson after the last couple weeks.
I got to tell you, Dotson looked ugly early in the year, man. It was bad.
He's so good. I don't understand.
He's a quality player. This is the Commanders are just a mess, dude. Like they don't know what they're doing.
The enemy just wants to have like 9 people on the reception list like every week. It's
ridiculous. Like you see guys that you never had thought were in the NFL and they get a catch. So, like Curtis Samuel when he had that huge game, I was like, he's still in the league. I forgot he was in the league.
He was like a top 30 receiver. He got hurt not this week, but last week I think. He was a top 30 receiver.
I just couldn't believe it. I was like, he hasn't done anything for the last 6 years, I feel like, and he just shows up all of a sudden.
And it makes sense in hindsight because like Curtis Samuel just feels like he fits that Chiefsy Bieniemy kind of system.
Yeah, he feels like he should have been on the Chiefs at some point in his career.
Yeah.
It's like, how was this not like why are we doing Kadarius Toney? We could have done Curtis Samuel for half the price. Anywho, let's go ahead and go to the tight end list here, and this was a very, very easy one. Big shocker, the Plague with their Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews duo, not going to be beaten in any way, basically, at the tight end position.
I'm a little shocked and offended that James didn't get a vote on this, but I digress.
James in the tight end position is death, taxes, and James not having a tight end in PHU Dynasty. It's unbelievable. But the tight end landscape is changing a little bit. We could talk about that with this spot because with Sam Laporta's emergence, who like does anybody not like Sam Laporta? That he's just such a throwback. such a gritty kneecap guy. Just like it's such a perfect fit. The whole thing is so perfect.
Is he like a baby Gronk to you? Because that's the vibe I get.
I think he's like he's just a smaller. He maybe isn't as talented, but he does similar things. Like he plays like him. He's got that like nasty edge to him, but he
I
also
think
is kind of like a goofball. Like it
yeah, I
kind of
think
works.
easy comparison because they went to the same school as George Kittle, but I just don't think he's the athlete that George Kittle is.
I don't think so at all. No,
Like
I think
Gronk
he's a
makes sense.
lumbering kind of guy, but like in the
Yeah.
best way. Like it's tough to tackle that kind of guy. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. And then some of the other tight ends too. Kincaid has been a little stronger these last couple weeks.
Mhm.
Michael Mayer actually had a good week right after I was talking shit about him on the podcast. I think he got like 85 yards, and then Josh McDaniels decided he didn't exist the week after. So yeah, there's
Well, he
been
doesn't exist.
yeah, exactly. Unbelievable. That story is unbelievable to me with that whole meeting thing.
Did,
It's so bad.
did you see the locker room footage after they won?
Oh my god, dude! It was just basically it was like a giant just we hate Josh McDaniels party. It
Oh,
was
it's great.
unbelievable.
Love it.
Yeah, so the tight end landscape is changing a little bit. There's definitely guys moving up and down. I feel like more this year than really the last 5 or so years. I mean, there's been some players that is just like, okay, well, like what has this person like Darren Waller, for example, just I
Yes.
expected so many good things this year from him, and he's done
It's
absolutely nothing. Terrible. So yeah,
This
it's been all
week
over.
was like a good microcosm of that because there was like I think like 8 of the top 10 tight ends this week were guys that like just aren't like your normal like your Kelseys and stuff
No,
like
I
that.
mean,
So,
like even if you look at the rankings, like the league leaders at the tight end, let's look right now actually. So we got Kelsey at what is the projection? Hold on. So we got
you might not be one anymore after this last
he
week.
is one by 2 points, so not by much, and it's to Mark Andrews is number 2. Then you have Kittle at 3, which is kind of surprising. Am I looking at the right thing here,
No,
or is
because
it not counting this week?
I've got the season totals up and it's got Taysom Hill at 3, which is just hilarious.
That is disgusting. What am I looking at? It says 2023 season stats. Where's Taysom Hill on this list?
I don't know. Where you have a sleeper?
I do have sleeper up. Yeah, it says he's tight end 4, but then on this thing it shows that he's
Do you
tight
have
end
it
like.
do you have it by per game or total?
Oh, I got to fix now. Okay, so I just had to sort it by the correct thing. So yeah, he has him as 3, which is just hilarious. You are absolutely right. I think it looks like he came into the week as tight end 4 and now he's 3. So
Yeah.
that's just wild. And then you have Hawkinson Komet as tight end 5. Didn't see that one.
He's been
Laporta,
getting absolutely peppered by Bajent, though. He's got so many targets the last 2 or 3 weeks.
maybe it's because he's pretty good. Maybe you should throw it to him. Like he's pretty
Yeah,
damn good.
Bajent is good. Yeah.
He had that great catch in the end zone a couple days ago. I mean, I was impressed with some of the stuff he was doing.
Boy, would you look at
Dalton Schultz.
who's at tight end 10? Look at that guy,
I still can't believe that. Johnny Smith, tight end.
John Smith.
It looks like he entered as tight end 10 and then had a 17-point week this week. 5 catches, 100 yards, a touchdown. That's Kyle Pitts is supposed to do that, Sean. What happened?
He caught a 60-yard screen pass, took it to the house.
Why are we throwing screen passes to Johnny Smith? Why is this happening? You have Bijan Robinson.
Because Arthur Smith doesn't care about your fantasy nonsense. That's why.
Dude, that guy does not give a fuck. He doesn't care. I've never Bijan is the way he's being used is so bad. It's disgusting. He is by far your best player on offense. Really, truly by far the best player, and he doesn't get the ball more than 15 times a game. What are we doing?
He benched Desmond Ridder because he was turning the ball over too much, which, in fairness, it makes sense.
I would have benched him a long time ago, but that's different.
You know what quarterback they brought in to relieve their turnovers? Taylor Heineke.
He
loves turning the ball over.
Human turnover, Sean. He loves fumbling it, too. He fumbles so much. Oh, crazy. What a mess. I got to tell you, that offense is so confusing. I think there was even a huge Mac Hollins week the other week. I was like, what are we doing? And the team is mid as hell. They just barely beat up on these shitty teams, and it's just such a win. They lost this last week to a guy that had 3 days to practice. It's so weird.
He doesn't know the names of the people he was throwing to.
He didn't even know the snap cadence. He had to learn on the sideline. I saw a video where he's literally learning on the sidelines. Like, that is just incredible.
It's gotta be one of the best performances, like,
It's very similar to like
ever
Baker
in
last
the
year.
NFL.
I mean, like Baker
Yeah.
just showed up and like won the game for him. It's unbelievable. But yeah, that was pretty crazy. All right, let's go to the next one. So the next one is the best 2023 rookie draft that was from this year. The Cheese Fries took down 6 of the votes. I picked up 3, and then the Muskrats got a vote as well. I would assume the Muskrats got their vote for their excellent Puka Nakua pick. That would be obvious.
This one I had a hard time deciphering, only for the fact that a lot of the players that got drafted have already been traded.
Yeah, it's tricky because like you could say that, like for example, like Vince drafting Jordan Addison, like does that count towards him or does it not? Because it wasn't like a draft day trade or not. So
Yeah,
I could
I
see
mean,
that.
or Bijan or Laporta or like all of
Right.
these
Yeah. I
people have
mean,
been
there was
traded
a lot
already.
of movement. A lot of movement. I viewed this as like the best. Who you got, after the
Mhm.
draft, like what rookie actually ended up playing for you is kind of like what my thought process was here. So, I gave it to the Cheese Fries because I thought they just did a great job of getting all the value in the right spots. And frankly, if you look at his team now, just between the draft last year and this year, they're very set up. Very set up.
I will say, in hindsight, Dustin might deserve like a at least like a shout out here, because he does have CJ Stroud and he's really good.
Yeah, I mean, and frankly, Tyjae Spears has done a lot more than I thought he was going to do at this point in his career as well. So I mean, like, he got guys that maybe, and I think he's got Roshan, who's had a very slow start as well. So like, there's still a lot of opportunity for that draft class to end up being very good as well. So, but Stroud right now looks like one of those classic, PHU Dynasty late round quarterback finds, which just seems to happen once or twice every couple of years here. So let's go to the next question, which was similar to this one. It's the best 22 last season rookie draft, and the Cheese Fries also took this one down. Um, had a phenomenal draft last year with the receivers specifically, getting Garrett Wilson, Drake London out of that draft, and maneuvering Brees Hall around. And somehow Brees Hall I think he's been traded 3 times already, or at least 3 or 4 at
Mhm.
this point. So it's been all over the place. But the Elk got a couple of votes here, and then the Armadillos got a vote as well. So a little bit all over the place after you get past the Cheese Fries, just based on who had the picks and whatnot. So let's go to the next one. This is a little fun to. We were talking about him quite heavily here a minute ago, Sam Laporta. So this is the best rookie of the first half. So I let you guys each pick 3 of these. So these are the total number of votes for the players. So the top 2, which I was shocked that both of these guys weren't unanimous. I mean, to me, they're just so much better. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe, like at least than some of the other choices. Like CJ Stroud, maybe like this even happened before his 53-point performance this past week. So Stroud hadn't even truly like broken out yet when he got a vote. Frankly, I don't think Bijan should be on this list based on the current situation, but talent-wise, of course, he's one of the best. Quite a bit, and then A-Chain is an interesting one just because of the injury, but he was completely on fire. I think he's somehow still heading into this week. He was still RB9 on the year, and he only played like 3 or 4 games. So it's just he was just
It's
on such a tear.
still RB12 as of right now.
That's absurd. How many games has he missed? At least like 4, right? 5 or 4.
Yeah. Uh, let's see.
How
He
many games did he
didn't
play in? I
play.
guess
He didn't play in week 1. He
he
in
had an ankle injury or
And
something.
in week 2 he got 1 carry. So that was in 3 weeks.
That's ridiculous. I mean, it's just we need that. Come back and bring that back to the Armadillos, please. We need more of that. That was great. I had a taste of the nectar, and now I want more. Um, and then of course, like Jordan Addison, I think heading into the week he was like wide receiver 8, I believe. So that's
Puka and Addison are wide receivers 8 and 9,
yeah. I mean,
respectively.
and I really think just draft capital, all that included, like Puka truly is the rookie of the year. I mean, he to me at least. I mean, he's just been such a stud for that team right out of the gate. Really, nobody expected him to do anything at all. I didn't even know his name until after the draft. I mean, just a phenomenal come up story for him. And then Laporta being the third tight end drafted, or I think the third tight end draft in the NFL draft. ended up being arguably the best at this point overall tight end. Pretty
Puka,
impressive.
Puka was my target in the first round of the supplemental, but Alex took him in the fourth round, so I couldn't take
I didn't even have him on my draft board, Sean. I didn't know
I
who
had
he
him on my
was.
draft
I
board.
didn't look. I guess I didn't look hard enough. Nobody told me to look.
I was like, this guy at least is going to get like a shot to start the year.
Well, that's all you want,
That
right?
was-
Like, so for example, like Keaton Mitchell, I think I took in the third round of that supplemental draft. But you like at some point you knew that all the Ravens running backs were all going to get hurt, so you might as well try. Like, what's the you
It's
know
very
something's
true.
going to happen. So yeah, like the Puka one is really impressive though. I mean, that's just to scout that out and know that you're probably not going to get him in the supplemental draft and just going ahead and taking him and getting your guy. At the time, it really worked out for him. So impressive
Did,
there.
did you have anybody outside of those top three that you picked?
My top three were Puka, Addison, and Laporta. Those
Yeah,
in order. So
same.
I'm not sure who. I mean, the only other one I considered was like A-Chain and Gibbs, only because in the games they have played, they've or gotten carries, they've looked great. So it's just a matter of staying on the field or getting on the field, one or the other. But both of those guys could easily be in the discussion as well. So
Sure.
all right, let's look at the busts of the first half. So Quentin Johnson is the 10 out of 10 unanimous. That it's so obvious. I mean, he hasn't played much, frankly, up until the last couple of weeks, but he couldn't beat out James Palmer, who's looked pretty good when he's played. Honestly, he's been solid. And then Mike Williams got hurt.
I don't think they understand the guy that they drafted because the first few weeks when he got targets, it was all downfield, and he's not good.
He's a mesh guy. Like he needs to do short crossers. Let him get the yak. He's not a downfield guy.
He's Kadarius Toney with less juice. Like that's.
I mean, he's a big Kadarius Toney. Yeah, like that's what he is. He's very much. He's like an oversized gadget player, which is he's kind of Cordero Patterson-y actually. Now that I think about it,
that's a great comp.
And he drops the ball a lot, so that's perfect for him. Actually, I think that might be in the comp that I should have gone with it. And guess who drafted Cordero Patterson back in the day? This guy.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
And then I quickly traded him to Tibbs for a terrible player as well. Jalen. It was a Texans receiver named Jalen or something like that. I have it all. You know what? All right, Sean, this is great for the podcast. I'm going to the 2013 PHU Dynasty website, which is still active on Weebly.com. And I have the draft results there. Hold it. Please hold it.
That's amazing.
I can't believe it's even on here. How can they not shut it down yet?
I can keep talking about the other guys on this.
You should watch. You guys don't want to hear me type Weebly?
I think Tank Bigsby is probably the other appropriate one on here. I think he's getting a little bit of a bad break. I think he's getting a little unlucky with some fumble stuff, but especially in that week 1 game. But yeah, it definitely felt like he was at least going to get like the short yardage and goal line stuff. That's the way the team made it feel and sound coming into the year. So that's definitely hurting the cause. Because I was definitely.
I mean, you were really high on him for sure.
I was.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
I remember those.
It was one of my biggest misses this season for sure. I was really out on ETN, and he's been great.
It is Palm Harbor Dynasty League.weebly.com. It still has the Houston Hootenanny in here. Oh, this is great stuff. All right, so here's the 2013 draft. I remember I traded him for this other running back in this draft, and it was bad. I can't remember who it was, though. Maybe it wasn't. Tibbs, if you're out there, put it in the chat because I want to remember. But it was a bad trade. Nobody won. It was not good. Anywho, it was so the other ones like Jonathan Mingo, I think deserves maybe. I mean, he's been like okay, but I think it's been a product of mostly just the terrible Panthers team as a whole, not really giving him a shot.
It's that he's just a cheap version of like a DK Metcalf, AJ Brown.
Is it just Brandon LaFell reincarnated? Is that it?
I just don't. He doesn't really. He's athletic. He's an athlete.
James hooked me up. Jalen Strong was the trade. Jalen Strong for Cordero Patterson, straight up. He was a crap receiver for the. I thought he was gonna be really good. He was terrible. But both of them were terrible, so it's all good. Hey, you know what? For shits and gigs, let's go back to his website. Let's talk about this 2013 draft for Gio Bernard, 1 overall to Christian, the Houston Hootenanny.
Oh.
Then Le'Veon Bell, 1.2. Monty Ball, 1.3 to the Silly Nannies.
Oh.
That's a tough one. Tyler Eifert, 1.5 to the Lambs.
Oh.
Marcus Wheaton, 1.6 to the Buffalo Blowout. Tavon Austin. Oh, this draft was so bad, Sean.
Was that the last tight end that James ever drafted?
Yeah,
Is that what
he
happened?
drafted Noah Fant that 1 year, right?
Oh, he did. You're right. Damn.
Was that a first round pick? James, did you send? You're out there, James. What, did you spend a first round pick on Noah Fant? I think you did. It was like a late first.
Is that what Tyler Eifert did to you? You just didn't want tight ends anymore after that?
I guess not. Man, dude, this draft, after you get to a certain point, it's so freaking bad. It's Tyler Eifert, Marcus Wheaton, Tavon Austin, Justin Hunter, Aaron Dobson, Zach Stacy, Tyler Wilson, Sean. He's back. Tyler Wilson's back.
Tell me you didn't do any research without telling me you didn't do any research on the draft.
I mean, it was rough. Was he the first quarterback taken that year?
Probably. I don't know.
I think he was. He was. Was there any other good quarterbacks that you passed on?
I still don't watch college
Geno
football.
Smith, 3.8 to the Kansas City
Definitely
Chiefs.
didn't watch college football back then.
No. Man, oh my God, I still have the rosters on here. What was my roster at this time? Oh man, these were some glory years. This was Russell Wilson, Phillip Rivers combo. Had Melvin Gordon, Lamar Miller, Travis Kelce's rookie year. Demaryius Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, Keenan Allen, Brandon Cooks. Yeah, that was a good team. Tyreek Hill is my 16th receiver. I had him ranked lower than Leonte Carew at the time. Oh, tough look out there. Anywho, all right, we can do the whole podcast on the PHU Dynasty website. Let's move on here to who will the second half breakouts be? And this is what you answered as your player, basically. So whatever you sent me as your second half breakout for your own team is what you're seeing here. So
Kyle Pitts, the poor guy won't give up.
He doesn't give up. Well, it's funny. I'll spoil the surprise. He's also the next question, which is who is the biggest letdown? It was also Kyle Pitts. So he picked Kyle Pitts for both, which I thought was funny.
Poor guy.
Yeah, he's taking a real beating with that one. But starting at the top, let's go to Will Levis here at the top. Scavelli believes in the Will Levis hype. He looked pretty decent.
He looks good.
He actually looks like he doesn't stink entirely. He looks so much better than Malik Willis. It's not even funny.
It's going to be tough because that team is not good around him. But, I mean, he's doing what he can. He throws a great deep ball. That deep ball,
there's no problem with his arm. There's absolutely zero problems. That thing rips. So
it's like the Aaron Rodgers flick almost. Like, it's just so pure when it comes out.
I got to see if I can find that video of him throwing in high school like that I saw so long ago. But, like, that guy's arm, it's like a rocket. It's unbelievable. He definitely has the raw tools, and it's just a matter of getting them in there. But I think the fact that he has that little blankie and DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, that's going to be a huge help for him on these like deep bombs. I think that you're going to see it a few more times this year for sure.
I would like it very much.
Yeah, I think you would, and that would be a huge boost to your already good receiving core. So
for the week that I benched Hopkins.
Oh my God. It's funny because like I had the same problem with that A-chain. I benched him on that 50 whatever point game, and it's just like it just hurts so bad because he's a good player. It's like, God damn it, just could you pick the right time for me to do this? I don't want to not start you. So then the Muskrats also picked T. Higgins, which I can loop that in with the Lambs with Joe Mixon as well because that offense just is really
they're getting
ascended.
I don't agree with the Joe Mixon. I think he's just absolutely washed, but.
He doesn't look good. Every time I see him carry the ball now, it doesn't look good.
He hasn't looked good to me in 2 years.
Like when Travion Williams gets carries, it's like, man, that guy's got some juice. And then Joe, it's like very like Leonard Fournette is what I'm getting.
Samaje Perine looked like he had juice because he was playing with Joe Mixon last
That's
year.
very true. That is extremely true. And Perine has been, he's just
it wasn't good.
He ain't it.
Not a great move by me.
He ain't it. The plague, Justin Jefferson. I guess if you think he's going to come back, sure.
Break out.
Yeah, we'll see. Does he even come back this year?
I don't know. I mean, they keep
why would he? Like, what's the point?
They're 5-4.
That's true.
He's eligible to come back next week, isn't he?
If they didn't pick up Dobbs, then like, if it was Jaren Hall, I'd say no. I wouldn't even play him. It's not even worth it. But they're not gonna. They have to play him for the young quarterback though. Like they're not gonna just not give the young guy the chance.
Yeah, the guy's thrown 6 passes in the NFL.
I think if they had lost this week, it may have been a different story, but they
Maybe.
pulled it off. So, anywho, Bombers. Well, I mean, Kyle Pitts, man, it's just so hard for Kyle Pitts to even play.
They just trade him. Not I mean in real life in the NFL.
Yeah,
Trade
NFL
him.
trade him. There's no point because you could get a big return on him. He's not. I don't think he's injured really right now. So why not do it? Like you won't get a whatever the fourth overall or fifth overall pick back, but you'll get a first for sure. So like, why not just do it and then you run the offense how you want to run it?
What team would you want to see him on?
The Cowboys. That would be a great spot for him, I think. I mean, Ferguson's not bad, but I mean, dude, Kyle Pitts in the middle of that offense is kind of what they need. They need that big body guy. It makes sense. Like they have a lot of like Gallup and Cooks are both shorter, even to an extent. CD Lamb's not a huge guy, but they could use like a perimeter kind of guy.
I understand. I don't like you for saying that, but I understand.
I don't like it either. I don't want to watch it. Well, actually, I kind of do want to watch it because I want to see Kyle Pitts succeed. I'm just sick of watching him not do anything. Like everybody in the world knows he's better than what he puts on the field. Like it's sad. So I just want to see him go anywhere he gets used. Like what would your top 2 be or 3 maybe?
Kansas City.
That would be fun, obviously. God, could you imagine Kyle Pitts taking over for Travis Kelce?
It's just fleecing the GM.
It's possible. It's certainly possible. I mean, frankly, if it wasn't a trade scenario, like the Panthers would be a great spot for him as far as like their team.
It's hard to ever see like a skill player getting traded in a division, so I think it'd have to be like a free agent thing. But
yeah, and I don't think they would be trading draft capital at this point either. So
yeah,
it's interesting. But yeah, he's got some. I don't think they're even considering trading him from what I can tell. So it's like I don't know what they're doing out there. Jahmyr Gibbs here at the 6th spot for the Chiefs.
Makes sense.
It really does make sense. I think this is he's shown a ton here in the last few weeks for sure. So he's definitely deserved of that. Javonte Williams for you, Sean. Maybe talk about that one a little bit.
I mean, his touches have gone up well, not counting the bye this week, but like before that, like 3 weeks in a row, his touches have been going up and up and up. He finally got a touchdown the week before the bye.
He sure did, yes.
He's, to me, still has, just because their offense has been functional this year, it's actually been pretty good.
Their defense quietly, like Russell Wilson has quietly not been that bad. He's been okay.
I don't see why he can't be an RB1 the rest of the year, just with the amount of volume he's getting.
If he's going to get that kind of volume, I mean, if you look at their landscape, I mean, you still have Devon Achane at 9 right now. Like nobody's set themselves apart in that middle of the pack range, so why not him?
Which would be great for my team because I could use another.
Yeah, I mean, and then I saw Cam Akers tore his Achilles? Was that?
You're darn right he did. It was his
left
Achilles. It was his other leg.
Oh my god!
Just brutal.
I think that's career ending at that point. Like it's over. That sucks. So yeah, I mean that didn't work out. But if Javonte hits, great. For the Lionheads, Trey McBride, great choice there. He's definitely picked it up the last couple weeks. Definitely a slow start to his career, but he definitely looked good those last couple weeks. So I agree with that one for sure. Myself, I picked Rashee Rice. I still think there's a chance that he gets a little bit more usage as it gets down the stretch. He's been kind of sporadically used right now, but he's still putting up points. He's getting touchdowns, 60 yards. He looks good every time he has the ball in his hands. It's just a matter of getting them there.
I will continue to send you mock trades in Galactic League for Russia.
I've considered it a few times. I look at it every time like, man, I like that, but I also like this. That's the problem is I like Rashee Rice. I don't want to give him up.
I feel like he is like, as of right now, the way it stands, without like free agency or another draft coming in or anything like that, he feels like he's gonna be the next guy up in Kansas City to me. So
he has that the same thing kind of happened with Tyreek his rookie year. It was like these very like sporadic splash plays, but not a lot of usage.
He can move.
He's fast for his size, man. He's big. I mean, he's not like he actually came in way shorter but at the combine than they expected him. If he's supposed to be 6'3", he was listed at 6'3", only it was like 6 foot and like some change maybe. But he moves so much better than like he looks on even his college film. He didn't look like that. There's something that the Chiefs saw that I didn't see. Because frankly, I thought he was overdrafted in the real NFL draft. So I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
they gotta keep upping his snaps. I don't know. I realize he's a rookie and their offense is not like it's not the easiest offense to pick up as a rookie, but they gotta if they want to win like in the playoffs, I think they're gonna need him to be like a guy, like a
He kind
real.
of seems like a prime playoff type of breakout kind of guy. Maybe just save him up until the playoffs and then unleash him kind of a thing. But his usage numbers have increased every single week since week 5. So it was 30, 49, 60, 61, 68. So they are like trying to get him in there. I think you might see more like in the 75 range here soon. So which would be pretty much starting at that point. So
Yeah, they
I'm
would
a fan. I'm
be.
hoping he breaks out. So I'd love to have it. And then Tajay Spears, we talked about him somewhat briefly, but he was a guy that nobody really likes in terms of his longevity because of his knee basically not being there. But now I feel like I'm getting some Jay Ajayi vibes now. Like he's kind of that forgotten about guy that we all know is talented. It's just a matter of his health and his injury. But he's looked really good when he's been spelling Henry, and Henry probably won't be there next year. So it's looking like he'll have a decent amount of at least a backfield share, maybe like 50%, going forward after Henry's departure, unless they bring in like a big name or something.
Yeah, even before then, if Henry misses any time, like his upside is as high as like most running backs, really.
Yeah, I mean he'd be a top 15 running back for usage because if it's Will Levis leading the charge, they're not going to just not run the ball. They have to run a ball with that kind of guy for this play action ability. So I think Spears is definitely outplaying what I expected at this point, but he's also set up for a nice next couple of years, and then I'll cut it there just because of his knee. But you might get 2 or 3 good years. He seems for Elk's timeline. I feel like it might be a prime like trade guy next year, or maybe during the draft or something like that.
Which if you're looking at it just from a general view, like 2 to 3 good years from a running back is
It's pretty much what you get anyway.
what you get anyway. So
Yeah, I mean it's especially for a not first or second round running back. Like you'd be happy with a 3 year career from. I mean, look at Damian Pierce for example. Like it could end at any time. Really, it seems like. I mean, it's
I
it's
thought he would be
crazy.
a trade candidate at the deadline
I
just
thought
because
so
of the
too.
he cannot run in a zone scheme whatsoever. He is awful in a zone scheme.
No, and remember we did that film breakdown of him last year? It wasn't a zone scheme. It was a straight ahead run ground
I
pound. It was very good at that.
I wanted. I apologize to the Gus Bus, but I really wanted the Ravens to trade for him. I thought that
Would
would
have
have
been a
been.
great fit. Just a
That would
power
have been
fucking game. Just go
perfect.
right down the throats. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I would
I
love that.
agree. He's just not. You might see that as an off-season trade. I feel like that. Like I just don't
Mhm.
see the Texans keeping him around when other teams value him probably higher than their own team. So what's the point?
Yeah, I mean,
We'll
I love
see.
him on the Eagles too. We don't really have a
Would be a
North.
great. How many more running
Line.
backs do you guys need? You guys get them all the time.
Well, we don't even play freaking Penny, and he's the only guy that's like a north-south runner on our team.
That's very
I
true.
don't understand it, but
Their
whatever.
running game is always confusing though, so it's kind of like the Patriots in that way. All right, so here's your letdown players of the first half, and this was voted on by yourselves. So the Scavelli chose Odell Beckham. I think that's
It's,
pretty fair. But how
how
much of
much
a
were you
letdown is it though?
how much were you expecting from Beckham? Yeah.
I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I'll be honest with you. So I was thinking Rashad Bateman would be on the list for uh, for just he's basically done nothing, and every time I think he's going to do something, he doesn't do anything. So I think Rashad Bateman overall could have been on the list, but the Muskrats chose Ramondre Stevenson. Pretty good choice there. He's just not
Yeah,
doing what
he had his pick of the litter. He has Najee Harris too. So
he really does. Yeah, I think Stevenson isn't even. Let me look at. I want to see where he's ranked right now
he probably got a
because
boost after this week. So
he did have a nice little week this week. He had 18 this week.
actually, hey,
It
maybe
looks
we should
like
do
he
that.
was RB 22, so not great, but not terrible. He was RB 14 last year.
Part of it, I don't know if it's really. He has not been good as like a runner, but their offense is terrible. But like, why weren't they? There was like a stretch where he wasn't even getting used as a receiver. And if
Yeah,
I don't
there was
understand.
a literal 3 week stretch where he had 1 catch, 2 catch, no catches. So I'm not sure what the deal is there.
That's
Um,
dumb.
his snap numbers have gone down almost every week, it seems like too, which is kind of strange as well. But what's most interesting is if you look at his yards per carry, he was at 4.95 last year on 210 carries,
Let's
and
say
then
like
this year he's at 372.
yeah.
So it's a big change, and like you said, the offensive line has to be an issue.
A yard more per carry than Joe Mixon though. So
yeah, that's insanity though. That's crazy. All right, so for the plague, they put down Nick Chubb and J.K. Dobbins just from an injury standpoint. I don't think that's a letdown.
It's not a letdown. That's football.
I mean, especially J.K. Dobbins football. I mean, you had to know that's not how's that a letdown for J.K. Dobbins? You knew exactly what was going to happen.
I'm going to his team right now. I'm going to tell you who his actual letdown of the year so far is.
Doesn't he have Rashad Bateman? Is that him or is that Dustin? Because there's got to be a better letdown. Well, we're doing some investigative research.
Would you consider AJ Dillon a letdown? He doesn't have.
No.
No.
He's not. He's terrible. That guy stinks. I had him last year in redraft. He killed me. Oh, Madison. I thought he stink too, though. That's the problem. I don't like any of these guys. I was talking shit about Alexander Madison all offseason.
Adams?
That's pretty interesting. He's wide receiver 18, and he hasn't been lower than wide receiver 5 in the last 3 years.
He's only had 2 weeks in double-digit points so far.
I mean, it's not what he had any kind of huge flop weeks too. He had 3 this week, 1 last week, and then 2.9 the week before that. So I mean, he hasn't really done anything lately. Yeah, I think if you had to pick one, like he's definitely disappointing. I mean,
I would go with Adams.
I think heading into the week he was in the wide receiver 20 range, which is not what you want from a number 1 receiver.
You could make an argument for DK Metcalf too, but
yeah, he got some injuries too, though.
Yeah,
I think he missed the Arizona game. So, yeah, so interesting choices there. All right, so Austin Eckler for the Lambs. I think this is an interesting one.
He missed time. I don't know.
Yeah, we won't talk too much about that. The Bombers, of course, Kyle Pitts. What a shocker! We talked about that. Sky Moore for the Cheese Fries. Sky Moore ain't it. I don't think it's going to happen.
You know what though? I respect that he's owning it.
Yeah, he hustled for it. That's for sure. I mean, it happens. You're chasing down, the best offense. See what happens. I get it, and it just didn't work out this time. But
I will say there are definitely a couple managers in this league that I feel like they wouldn't own it. He owned it.
Well, it's like you got to admit your mistakes and move on from them. Specifically, guys, that if you can return value, or the dynasty is not. It's not great to hold guys that you're going down with the ship. You got to kind of move some of these guys if you have any chance to. I think sometimes, but it's really hard to sell players sometimes when they're young like this, because there's still the upside. It's like, oh, he's still attached to that offense and he's still young and there's still upside there, and maybe there isn't, and you just don't get anything out of it. But yeah, like I think admitting your mistake is tough to do in dynasty, specifically based on the age, because you're always just hoping that it's going to happen. Oh, this is the year, and it just doesn't happen. So Sky Moore, unfortunately, not looking good for this first year and a half or so of his career. I'm not feeling it, but maybe there's a third-year breakout in there somewhere. Who knows? The long gamers picking Lamar Jackson. This is an interesting choice as well. Maybe talk about your reasoning here.
The offense, they just got off to a very, they almost didn't play any preseason games together.
Yeah, that's true.
The way it felt to me, and
a new offense, yeah.
So it was just a really slow start for what I was, and I say slow start. I think he's the quarterback 4 on the year.
He is the QB 4. I mean, he had a couple of real dud weeks though.
I think it's almost by default because he's played in every game without a bye week so far this year. So
that is
I don't know.
True.
I think it's been a little disappointing. I don't think he's been bad. I just think it's been a little underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not like a bad year by any stretch of the imagination, but
I think another candidate would have been Dallas Goedert for my team.
I was thinking like Goddard or Akers maybe. I mean, Akers was supposed to be a 20 carry guy for the Rams, and just never worked out. I mean,
yeah, that one was tough. I don't think if you would have surveyed all 10 of us, I don't think they would have had Kyren Williams ended up being the week 1 running back for the Rams. I don't know if we all would have picked that. So
funny. Now I guess I can say it now, but Kyren Williams was supposed to be a throw-in in our trade with the Bijan Robinson trade. I was trying to get Kyren Williams instead of Gus Edwards, which I thought looked stupid at that time, but then now looks like Gus Edwards is better again. It's like a changing vortex of shitty running backs. So it's very interesting how that ended up playing out. But yeah, so I think Lamar. There is a reason to be disappointed for sure. Like there's a few real.
It's also watching their games, and it always feels like they should be scoring like 40 plus every week, and they end up just scoring like 20. And that's the other reason I put them on there. It just feels like they've been very good this year, but it feels like it's almost like watching the Eagles too. Like the Eagles are winning, but it feels like they should be winning by like a lot more every week.
And I definitely do not disagree. I mean, it's also weird too because like even the games they score, I think this week they won like 34-7 or like it was a pretty big win, right, against Seattle.
They 37-3.
And he had 11 points in that game. Like it was just it just wasn't his game, but they scored all these points. That's crazy.
Fuck you, Gus Edwards.
It is a Gus Edwards issue for sure. There.
And the game was over so fast because their defense was so good that
they have their defense is freaking good. Their defense is good. I will never ever. The Ravens just understand defense. They just get it. Even the years you think, oh, maybe it's the year they fall off. No, they didn't fall off. Like it just doesn't happen.
I will take that defense over the Browns. Welcome to my unpopular opinion.
I kind of agree with that. I don't have anything bad to say about it. Like I feel like they're not that far apart. I mean, they're both very good. That's for sure. I mean, I think they win in different ways. Like I would take the Cleveland pass rush, but I would take other pieces in the Ravens secondary maybe.
The Ravens have had the best safety tandem in the NFL so far this year.
I think their back seven is phenomenal. I mean, when you talk about their linebackers too with Roquan, I mean they are stout. They were a good team.
Yeah, Roquan definitely.
That was a great trade for them.
He's given oh god. He's given what's his name run for his money for his best linebacker. Why am I
Fred Warner?
Warner, yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, he's a beast. I mean, they're both great. They're kind of like different players, but they're both very good.
Yeah. So for sure.
All right, let's keep moving here. We got Miles Sanders for the Lionheads. That is very true.
Pretty easy.
That was a big time letdown. Quentin Johnson also we talked about it. Trevor Lawrence definitely feels like a letdown at this point in his career. I mean, I thought he would be. If you look at his numbers week to week, I haven't been redrafted this week. It's just so consistently below average. It's like one touchdown a week, 232 yards, something like that. And it's just like I feel like if you, as somebody posted on Twitter yesterday, it was like the numbers between him and another quarterback, Mac Jones. They're not that far apart in numbers. Like it's kind of crazy, and the narrative is so different between those two players. It's very interesting.
And a lot of people were like, well, we'll just wait until he gets Cam Robinson back. Like, and the photos, like, watching their games, like, their problem isn't their left tackle. Their problem, first of all, their problem is their offensive coordinator is fucking terrible.
That's part of it. I don't think he's playing bad football. It's so weird.
And he turns the ball over in the red zone.
He sure does. That is very true. Because I've watched a bunch of those red zones, and they end up in interceptions every time. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, they should be much better in the red zone than they are.
They have way too much talent on offense to not be good in the red zone. Like you have 3 quality receivers, at least a good running back, a good tight end. Like there's no reason.
Alex probably could have put Calvin Ridley there too.
He definitely could have put Calvin Ridley. I mean, and I think he was looking like a couple of weeks into the season, he looked great, and then just fizzled. I have no idea what happened.
I don't know.
I believe that is the end of the mid-season survey. So once again, thank you all for, filling that out quick and getting back. And I thought that was pretty cool to see what everybody thought. So I hope you all did too. That was actually, I'll shout out James. That was James's idea to do the mid-season survey. So good idea there. And of course, if you have any other ideas for the podcasts in the near future or down the line, let us know. We'll try to get it in as well. So I had a league trophy idea, and this is kind of stemming back to the merchandising stuff we've done in the last couple of years, and we have a little bit more opportunity for this now that the internet and some of these small businesses these print businesses are providing more opportunities for these type of merchandise things. So my idea was, why not we do a winning team jersey for that player? So you can make a jersey custom, and you don't have to bulk order them, which is very nice. So you could just order one jersey. We could develop it, make it basically your team's official jersey in the colors that you have in your logos and whatnot. And we can develop that. We can put the winning year on it, right? So it'd be like this year will be the 23rd, 2023. So if let's say James wins it, we'd put it 23, and then the team, if his MVP is Christian McCaffrey, we put McCaffrey on the back. Just so it's basically like a symbol of that season. It's a trophy, if you will, but you can wear it if you choose to, or if you want it, no problem, Sean. Or if you want to hang it up perhaps or frame it or whatever you want to do, it's not like a trophy that you have to pass around. It's just something you get every year. So I think for our league it makes a lot of sense. And then with Dynabook, maybe we could just have everybody chip in an extra $10 into their buy-in, for about $100, which is about what it costs. So that would be a pretty cool idea in my opinion. And of course, now that we have these merchandising opportunities with these other sites, we could always we can up the ante if you wanted, if you wanted something specific like a ring or, maybe some sort of T-shirt or something else with like a championship, whatever. We can do that as well, so you can have some of that stuff. So just an idea I had. So maybe leave a comment in the Discord saying if you're interested in that idea or not. Maybe we could take a vote on it towards the end of the season and see if that's something that people want to do. But I think it's a cool idea. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, assuming we can like range in like kind of like what the like ballpark estimate would be for something like that, I definitely think at this point for all of us, I think we can all kind of like afford it and do it for the most
Yeah,
part. So I like it.
yeah. I thought the base idea is, from what I can see, it's around $75-ish and then 20-ish to ship or whatever. So yeah, I think it'd be about 100. So I would say it'd be just less than $10 or $10 for each player on top of what we already pay. And it
Yeah,
would be a nice way to just have something on the wall or wear when you want to.
I mean when the Galactic win last season was the first league that I've won in like our group of friends.
I was gonna say I hadn't really thought about that until right now.
So, and I told myself, like, I will get a piece of memorabilia from the best player or the most important player on my team every year if I win. So I
It
got,
had to be a Kelsey one.
and it's Kelsey.
Yeah, I feel like I could have 4 of those for my for all my years here.
So I love that idea. I think that makes a lot of sense for me. Like, I just took it upon myself to do it for me for that year. But
Yeah, it's just something like you could put on a shelf or wear it, on a specific day or whatever, and like your team makes the playoffs. Because I think it's cool too that now there's so many opportunities with. I found this one site in particular. I'm kind of saving interest in. That lets you pick. You can put your logos on it. So now everybody has a cool logo. It would look pretty sick. I think it would be very unique. So I don't think any other league has done that.
I think the big site that gets like bantered about in like the fantasy space is like Fantasy Champs. Is that one
That's
of them?
definitely one of them. There's like Fantasy Smack, Fantasy Champ, Fan Ideas, the one I was thinking of. There's definitely more opportunity now than ever for this.
Oh, for sure.
So I think we can do something really cool with not a lot of money. Basically, I think back in the day this would have cost a lot more money, and now it does not. So we'll see if that works out, and I'll put something in the chat maybe for a vote later on down the line. But I think if we can come to an agreement on that, that would be pretty cool to have hanging up for the winner this year. If they win, perhaps that'd be pretty sweet. So anything else for this podcast, Sean? I think we'll wrap it up here.
I'm good, man.
Sweet. Yeah, we're about halfway through. The muck is muckier than ever in this league, so I think it's going to be a wild ride to the finish here. So like you said, a big bye week this week. I believe is it the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and what's the other?
Eagles and
God, what a brutal! It's going to be a brutal watch next week with all these teams.
Do that.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be such a miserable week to watch next week. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. So enjoy the rest of the ride. I think next week might be a low-scoring week for everybody throughout the league, so we'll see. But appreciate whoever was tuning in, and we will see you next time.